Welcome to the official Avalonia 12 documentation. I hope you're excited. Whether you want to work on desktop, mobile, web, embedded, we've got you covered. We'll have you rocking those pixel perfect cross-platform applications in no time. So without further ado, let's just dive in. So if you're here, I can only presume you've landed on the page where this video is hosted. The point of these videos is short little tutorials in between reading. Some people prefer to read the documentation, other people prefer to just watch and get stuck in. So for those that like to watch, let's take a look at the documentation together and get started. We're going to start on a completely fresh install of Mac. So we have one running here, completely stock Mac, nothing installed. We're going to begin with the Avalonia install guide. So this is what we're going to go through. You've obviously got this documentation to supplement, and I will just work through this with you. So the first thing you can do is you don't necessarily always need to install .NET if you have it. So let's just copy this command, spin up a terminal, and let's see what we've got. So on my machine, we have it installed. However, let's check out what a fresh Mac terminal says. So I'm presuming Mac is not going to come out of the box with .NET. So you can see on this particular machine, we need to install .NET. Now, my personal preference, just open up Safari or any browser, type in .NET install Mac or whichever platform you're on, and you should find your way to the documentation. Once you're on this page here, you can look down and select long-term support. I personally don't jump to anything but the latest. If you're developing, stick to the official release. When you're in here, you can see there's quite a few options, so don't get distracted. Just go to the SDK here, pick your operating system here. In this case, we have a Mac, and you have ARM64 or x64. x64 is if you're on an older Mac that's running Intel chips, for example, but if you have a Mac newer than many years old now, anything from the M1 era onwards, you will be based on this ARM. So we'll click the ARM install, allow it to download, and we should end up with a file. You can see it's downloaded twice here, but we can ignore that and install once. This is the same for every system, Windows, Mac, Linux, they're all basically the same steps. We'll let this finish up and then move to bin. And what you'll probably find is we might need to restart the terminal. You won't find it straight away. So we do terminal again, press up and enter. And now you can see we have .NET 10. So that's the first step installed. We now have a prerequisite for the .NET 10. Next up, we need to install helper templates. This allows us to get started with Avalonia easier. It's as simple as copying this command here. So the .NET install, we'll go back to our fresh Mac, spin up a terminal again. We probably should just leave this open, paste in. And what this is going to use now is the new .NET tools we've just installed. And it's going to specifically search on the marketplace for these Avalonia templates, which is maintained by Avalonia. And we should install all of the templates. And you can see here we have an issue already. Before we dig in deeper, it's pretty much telling us for more information, run workload update. So again, fresh Mac, nothing on. Let's copy this and paste and just see if that fixes our issue. So we need to run with sudo in order to bypass this. So we'll close that down. Terminal. In fact, I could have just left terminal open again, but we've got a fresh one now. We just type sudo and then paste in the command. And we can see this is then going to install workloads. So this is why I'm doing it on a completely fresh machine. So any issues you would typically hit, you're going to see us discovering and fixing. So that's that installed. We can now try again. If we press up 3 times, we have the .NET new install. Let's press enter and nope, we still have issue. Oh no, there we go. We have actually completed successfully. There is the templates. This just looks like an error, but it's basically telling us no project was found at path. So this looks like just warnings we can ignore. We'll soon find out if not as we go ahead, but the fact we now see these shows us that we have successfully installed the templates. So let's now jump on to the next step. You can see this is what it shows as being what you should get. You can check the templates with .NET new list. So let's do that. If you ever want to clear the screen as well, just type clear and you'll get a fresh terminal. And now in the list here, if I expand that all the way out, we can see here are our new Avalonia templates. So we know it's now installed And that means we can use the command line to spin up new Avalonia templates. If, however, you already have templates installed, you want to run this command instead, dotnet new update, or I might recommend personally doing dotnet new uninstall Avalonia templates first to completely remove old ones, and then rerunning the install at the top here. That's my personal preference. So now we should all be on the Avalonia 12 templates, or whatever template is up to date at the point of you watching this video. And then there's a note here that basically tells you if you're using Visual Studio, you don't actually need to run the install templates command that we've just done because Visual Studio does that for you. However, it's still good practice to do it. We'll be using Rider as our IDE, and that also has templates built in, but you still have no harm doing these extra steps. We can verify the steps then by doing this. So what this is going to do now is make a new template as the avalonia.app. And if we look at the templates, there's actually 3. So we have here a .NET app, an MVVM app, and a cross-platform app. So a brief overview of what these are. You can see it kind of tells you here. So the final one, the cross-platform, basically adds in mobile and browser. They're the additions. So you're basically going to get iOS, Android, and browser support. Whereas the app and the MVVM app are desktop apps. Most of the time, I personally work with the desktop apps. And the difference with the MVVM app is it will automatically add the whole model view model system. So I'd personally recommend doing this model, MVVM. You can always just make an app and then add MVVM after. Or if you're getting started, start with the basic app first to not confuse yourself with all the other things. So what we're doing is giving this command here, avalonia.app. So if we take a look here, all we're doing when we say .NET new and avalonia.app is specifically telling it to make a new template based on this thing we've just installed. You don't have to do this. You could handcraft all of this manually, but this is how you make a new template, like when you're starting any new project, whether you're selecting ASP.NET Core, a classic Windows app or similar. This is just the way of doing that. So it's going to make a template wherever the terminal is in an output folder called test app. So that means if we were to say type ls to see where we are just in my project folder. So let's cd into desktop. And then in here now we can do the .NET new avalonia.app output folder test app. What this should do then is if we look on the desktop, we should see this test app folder now appeared. And when it's done, you can see it's created our application for us. So this is now a boilerplate Avalonia application. After that, we cd into that folder, and then you can do .NET build. So this is all about learning how to ensure Avalonia is working without any IDE or tool set. This is just making sure we have the basics, and you can see it's up and running and compiled. Now, some common issues you might come across, if the templates are trying to use a .NET version that you don't have installed, then you could get issues with build errors and SDKs. But if you've followed along with this so far, you shouldn't hit any of these issues. Now, one thing the documentation doesn't say at this point is, how do we see that happening? How do we run this application? Well, if we just type .NET run and press enter, this will use the .NET SDK to spin up the application for us. So here it is. This is your first Avalonia cross-platform app. And if you were to run this on Windows, Linux, anywhere else, this is what you'd see, the exact same pixel perfect output. So that's it. You've just made your first Avalonia application. We haven't dived into the code yet, but that's the next step. We'll get an IDE installed, and then you can take a look at this code and understand it.